Almost anyone can define the word perspective, but do we really know how important it is? There are many factors that influence our perspective, such as our age, religion, gender, past experiences, or many other topics that we won't discuss today. Our perspective is how we view the world, the people in it, and the things that we do. Empathy is the ability to understand the feelings of another person. Since our perspective is our feelings and our views, then empathy is the ability to understand someone else's perspective. After some reflection, I've come to think of 3 concepts that make up empathy and go hand in hand with perspective. Without all 3, there's nothing. Connection, understanding, and willingness. I moved to Pittsburgh from Tennessee in the summer between 7th and 8th grade. I lived in a small town in Northeast Tennessee for my whole life, so moving here was a huge change for me. I had started school with no friends and didn't know anyone, and honestly thought that life here would be dull and boring without my friends that I had known for my whole life. But as soon as I walked into homeroom on the first day and sat down in my assigned seat, I was greeted like an old friend by many of my classmates, and I was genuinely shocked and surprised. And I had a set idea that Pittsburgh was going to be cliquey and exclusive and not fun, but the kindness of people here really changed that idea. There are many ways in which we can change our perspective by practicing connection. My classmates here practiced it for me by putting themselves into my shoes and assessing the point and having empathy for me. Listening to what others have to say is also very important. Emotional intelligence, or the connection between self and others, leads to understanding. Connection impacts perspective because if we're apathetic and just sort of stand back, there's no way that empathy can occur. Learning more about people in other countries and cultures is another way to change our perspective. Now, you all probably realize that there are many cultural discrepancies between here and Tennessee. In Tennessee, people drink their iced tea sweet, like very sweet, whereas people here prefer the unsweetened version. Where I'm from, hockey isn't really a big deal, but if I said that here, someone would probably not be the happiest with me. The dead of winter there is kind of like November here, and I could go on and on. I didn't realize how different my life would be. In fact, before I moved, a member of my church pulled me aside and told me to never become a Yankee because Yankees were rude. I quickly learned that that was false, but 7th grade kids didn't know that. The culture shock was real, people. For the first time in my life, I had a Trader Joe's 5 minutes from my house. But in all seriousness, moving here forced me to be cognizant of cultures that aren't my own and people that aren't the same as me. Understanding impacts perspective because it gives us more of a picture of how things really are instead of how they are in our view. Be willing to change your mind and compromise. In my family, it's common knowledge that my siblings and I are extremely stubborn. Our arguments are often very prolonged because we can't seem to budge in the debate. My parents are totally over it. In a 1982 journal article entitled An Attainable Global Perspective, journalist Robert G. Hamby explores the idea of perspective consciousness, or the recognition that there are many perspectives out there that aren't the same as our own, and that perspective is a fluid idea, not a rigid construct. Willingness to compromise is the final link between connection and empathy. Now, let's take this on a test run. Many of you have seen this picture before. Some of you might be seeing a young woman looking to the side wearing a choker, or some of you might be seeing an old woman looking down and squinting her eyes. You're both right. Try and see what you didn't see before. This picture is an example of something called a paradigm. A paradigm, by definition, is a pattern, model, or standard. By seeing what you didn't see before, you're altering your paradigm in this specific case. Your perspective and your view can work that way too. You can see that you connected yourself to the situation by forming your opinion. You understood how someone else saw it, and you were willing to change the way that you saw it. And there you have it, the 3 parts of perspective that go hand in hand with empathy. Connection, understanding, and willingness. My perspective all started to change once I moved more than 400 miles away from home, but your change doesn't have to be that drastic. Your actions are up to you, but always remember the impacts they have on others' perspectives, big or small. Thank you.